Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to PCM23 Lions. This is episode number 3. Now, this is the final episode where the algorithm really requires that boost until series are properly established. So one last time, I'm going to ask you to drop below, click that like button, leave that algorithm comment. It really does help out significantly with the establishment of a series, which the first 2 episodes have been fantastic. The algorithm has worked. For the first time, the algorithm is actually working. There have been comments where people had no affiliation to the channel, no affiliation to PCM, no affiliation to cycling, and somehow it ended up on their feed, and they checked it out, and they were happy. They've contributed to the comments as well. So I'm so excited to have that. This is the first time I've encountered that. So really happy. But here we are on a difficult stage with a very key objective. We need to finish it in the top 10. So far, objectives have not gone well, and to get a top 10 here would really help with the sponsor confidence, especially when I don't know what's going to happen yet with those national championships. In future years with the database, they should be there, but this year I think they're going to be there. So with 23k to go, the good news is I set this as a sponsor objective. So I gave us every reason to be successful for this race. The best riders are here. Best race day condition is here. Iob is the only one that it did not work out on. He got a really poor draw and is like a day or 2 away from starting his fitness peak. Everybody else, mostly +5s, bar one guy. And I'm liking our chances. 18k to go. But there's still 9 riders in the breakaway. They still have a 55-second advantage. They have not been caught as of yet. They are in sight. Their pace isn't great. We're going in 85 and starting to get some of that blinking red, meaning we're struggling to hold our position with that 85. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot from here to squeeze out a top 10. And there's a handful of riders there trying to push. They don't attack, though. They're just pushing tempo. No, they are attacking. There's a couple riders going off the front. 14k to go. I think I might need to set things up, but I really don't want to do it until we're over this hill. There is, on the finish line, there's a hill on the way to the finish. And with as weak as our team is, as low as our flat ratings are, it's hard to push too far too soon. It's really easy to have issues. But as we go through that 4-way, now we're over the top. Now we're going to start to descend, and we're going to set our team up here pretty quickly. And, excuse me. And we continue on. We're now at 11k to go. Rigora, barely anything left. Iob's already done. So it's not going to be an easy task here trying to catch up. Pushing a 97 for now. No one probably can't push that 99 all the way through, but that's it for Rigora already. So we're going to have to get on to Zerai. Zerai, decent climber, but not a sprinter. So Zerai, that's his area. Definitely not a sprinter. And again, we're going to have to try to go with that 97. We are catching 1 rider from the break, but there's still 6 more up the road. And we're still only pushing 97 with guys with low flat rating. So just how quickly are we gaining? We've split the peloton. It's down to just 31 riders. And Zerai running out of energy. From here on out, it's 4.5k. We've got to go flat out. Abdia, next one to take over. He's got his +5. These guys are in good shape. We got 4 riders here going full gas to the finish. Front group splits in half. Abdia still leading it out. We're down to 2.3k, and we're going to start sprinting with Mansouri. We passed those 3. Now there's 3 ahead of us, and we're catching up to them very fast. Mansouri's done. We're down to 1.3k. Baitza and Davids, the 2 sprinters for the day. Half down on energy. That's going to be a difficult final stretch. Plus, there's that little hill as you hit that. Oh, we're in great shape, though. Here comes Davids. Davids is in a wonderful position, but watch out for those sprinters. Here they come. The breakaway rider has hung on and won this thing, I believe. I think Meringue was one of the breakaway riders, but Restrepo is second with the sprint. Lawless is third. And we get our top 10. We have got our top 10. Baitza is 9th. Davids is 10th. So we have squeezed out a top 10. That is going to be a huge boost to the sponsor confidence. And here is our confirmation of the sponsor confidence now into the green. That is the level of success. That is a level of a partial increase to our salary for next year. Also noteworthy of recent periods, we have seen the leveling up of one of our riders, and that is Mansouri. Mansouri now at 3.5 stars, and at the bottom end, our minimum is now 1.5 stars. So we are seeing some improvement in the team, but we're still really bad. We have been a little bit unlucky with 2 injuries here recently. Mansouri is going to be out for about a month. Stedman's already been out for a few weeks. Short term for him. He'll be back soon, though. But Mansouri and his level up, that's awesome. 2.5 stars. But the bad news, he's a Barrador. But this brings us into a new period and an important, huge element to what this series is going to be about, and that is the dossiers. So as we jump into the dossiers, for those that are unfamiliar with the game or unfamiliar with cycling, in order to sign contracts with riders, it takes a mutual understanding. And within that mutual understanding, there's interest level for the other party, for the riders themselves. Those interest levels are color-coded in red, yellow, or green. Red means there is no interest whatsoever, and no matter even if you agree to terms and get 100% in the contract negotiation, they will not sign, no matter what. Yellow, they will sign. They are willing. They'll talk with you. Green, they're willing. They'll talk with you, and they'll offer you a discount. So that discount is huge. Now, more than just the interest level, there is also the dossiers, and the dossiers are used as a direct element to pick up interest, to develop interest amongst riders. And to gain that interest, you open these dossiers on them, and each dossier comes with a cost, points. You start with 30 points. By the end of just before we get into the actual signing period, that'll grow to 60 points, but you've got to use that up to help you along the way, get riders to increase their interest. Ultimately, the target is to get them into the green so that we can afford to have the riders and not have to overpay for them, as we're definitely playing with a budget. Now, moving on to the process that I use to determine who I go try to open those dossiers on. I use the search tab for this one. I hop over, I input country, and then I'm going to be selecting the African countries specifically. And for me, there's too many of them to just memorize or have to go through one by one and kind of recall which one's which. I actually have a list, and this list contains all of the African nations. I also have listed on here their training structure rating, the popularity within the country, has added tools. This is also the sheet that I use to track the progress as we go along to see how many points we get in our ultimate objective of trying to make Africa the greatest continent in cycling. But I choose the countries. First one on my list is Algeria. So going over into Algeria here, I look at each of the riders and see what their current ability is, how much potential they still have. You can see whether they're on existing contracts for the future to look at, or if they're going to be coming up available for this year, how many dossier points that it costs, and of course that limit, right? We have a limit of 60. Reguigui is somebody I would like to sign, but he costs 30 dossier points and is 33 years of age right now. So as good as he is, he's too expensive in terms of dossier points, and he has no interest. He's in the red right now, but we move on. As I go forward and go through this list, 6 straight nations of 1-1 or at least low popularity, and not a single rider in the current database. Not one. 6 nations without a single rider until I finally get to Eritrea. Eritrea is absolutely one of our key nations. It's the second largest one in the current database here. Girmay is a wonderful target, but he's already signed up for next year anyway. Tesfatsion is also signed up for next year. The next guy available who has an expiring contract from EF Education, is Kubos. And Kudos, I believe, but Kudos is most of the way to his potential. He is 29 years of age. He might level up a little bit more at 29 and reach a little bit further, but he's a decent prospect compared to some others. Anyway, I go through nation by nation by nation and look at the list. And ultimately, I will end up using a sticky note to jot down the best riders available that I am interested in. I'll go over what my limit would ultimately be with that, because then I can narrow it down to the best options. Speaking of best options, Africa is known for being punchy. Some climbers, not a lot of classics riders, not a lot of sprinters. So finding a good sprinter is a huge step towards finding some success, especially with those sponsor objectives. So Ryan Gibbons is going to be our first target. 10 points. Gibbons already is 28 years of age, so he's not a great prospect for us long term. We need to get a guy like Gibbons on our squad. Also, Kudos, the guy that we were just looking at a little bit ago, 29, 15 points, and 15 points is really the limit that I'm willing to spend on Dossier points. There's riders out there that are asking 90. That's because we have no reputation. As we gain a reputation, those riders, those Dossier evaluations drop lower and lower and lower, and they're more willing to talk to us. The interest levels will also come up. Right now, as a brand new Continental team without a reputation, signings are hard. So re-signing Zerai is incredibly important. And so I'm going to spend our last 5 Dossier points that we have right now on him. All 3 of these guys are in the red. That's problematic. That's very problematic. But that's why you invest in these guys now, to very much get them in the yellow and make them options that we can hopefully sign. Following our success, that last race that we showed 10 minutes ago or so, 4 straight inevitable failures. They were stage win requirements. We're not winning any stages this year with this team. So those 4 all chalked up as failures, and our sponsor confidence has plummeted. But the good news is it's still in neutral. It's at the low end, but it's still in neutral. So we've got a chance to recover some, because our next 2 objectives are top 10s, including our 3rd biggest possibly achievable objective. And that's where we head now. But we find ourselves in a good news, bad news, good news type scenario here. Good news, it's a sprint finish, and it's probably, if anything, an achievable top 10 type finish. The bad news, we had 3 objectives back to back to back that were a little bit too close together to justify putting an objective on all 3 for the riders. It would probably wear them out. They probably wouldn't line things up properly. So I figured, why not take the smallest of the 3 as well as the middle of the 3, so you're sure to land the objectives properly on the inner and outer one, and just do your best with the middle one. Well, this is that middle one. So nobody's on an objective. The race day condition is quite poor. Very mixed. The other bad news, my 2 closest things to a sprinter that we have a combined -7 race day condition. And also, there's a lot of undulation on this course, meaning it's got a lot of rolling hills. The more hills you have, the harder it is to ride through. And for riders that are as weak as my guys are, it's problematic. You can see how easily we're drifting back as we went through that little hill section, but I knew there was time for it to come back together. So I decided that, maybe I should not ride too hard. You can see how tired we are with 41K to go. We can't afford to be expending a ton of energy on those climbs. So good to see that we've got everybody back up to the front. Blinking red at 76, meaning it's hard to keep up. 70 riders in the peloton, 10 riders in the break, just under 2 minutes ahead, and we're hitting one key area here in a second. There it is. We've got a hill. It's short, but it's steep. And it's going to put a hurting in the legs, and we're going to hit it over and over again. We're on a looping circuit here, to the finish. And we're going to hit that hill, what is it, 5 times? That's going to hurt the legs, and there's already guys that are hurting. We're already starting to use gels on these first guys. Okay, well, I said good, bad, bad, good news. There's one more good news item. The good news item being that this field, as difficult as our scenario and our setup is, this is a weaker field than what we had in the last race. The last race, all of the sprinters, the entire top 10 favorites, were all mid to low 70s sprint capability guys. This entire field only have a couple guys that even crack 70, barely. And the majority of the top 10 are mid 60s. We're low 60s. It's going to give us a little bit easier chance to hold them off if we can get out front. Speaking of getting out front, we've got 17K to go, and the breakaway, which was down to just over a minute, is back out to over 2 minutes. We're just now getting an acceleration in the field with 16K to go, but it's too late. And with this undulation, I really worry about our ability to be the ones to try to pull that back. We're too weak, but here's the problem. If that breakaway hangs on, we're sprinting for 11th, and we're not going to win the sprint. We might get top 5, but that would only be for 15th. I don't have a choice. We have to go for this here. Have to. So I'm going to set up our sprint train now with 14K to go and 2 more climbs of the hill to come, and a healthy gap to a front 10 that I'm not sure we're going to be able to pull back. Linga, we're going full gas, 99 from here. He's going to run out of energy very quick, but we're waiting for the other guys to kind of catch up to him. There's Davids. Davids was our sprinter previously, but with a -3 today, he's going early. Okay, here comes the hill. We're going to hit it one more time. Davids runs out of energy going through it, so Abdia takes over, gets to the front of the group. Peloton's already down to 62 riders from 70. The good news is the front group is starting to split up. At least 2 riders have been dropped so far. Two riders have been dropped so far, because there's 3 groups ahead of us, so the other 8 are all up there. Red bar's gone for Abdia. You lose pace when the red bar is gone. However, if you still have yellow, you can still maintain a good pace. It's not as good, but it's still good. So Abdia, we use him up until he's completely out of energy, and we're on to Iob, and we're down to 6.5K to go. We've split the field up even more, just 50 in the peloton now. We're also really close to catching the first breakaway rider, and we have. That's him there on our left. We've overtaken 1 breakaway rider, as we now have just under 5K to go, and Zerai has broken off from Baitza. Baitza ran out of red bar, and it gained him some separation. We're going to keep pushing and have Baitza just try to pull back, with Zerai cutting the wind at least a little bit. He's 6 seconds ahead. I'm going to start his sprint now as we go inside 3K, give him a chance to get away. So far, though, we've only caught 2 riders, and we've got to assume there are sprinters coming. But for the moment, that means we are sprinting for 9th place. And as we get down to the final K, Mansouri sprinting, and Zerai still sprinting, long since out of red bar. There is the 8th place rider ahead of us as the breakaway is collecting victory. What can we do, though? We've got riders coming up beside us, but it's such a technical finish that we're going to hold these guys off. Zerai takes 9th place. Mansouri takes 10th place. Hoggins gets 11th. Ayub gets 12th. We get 2 riders into the top 10, and that's 2 straight top 10 objectives that we have managed to successfully complete. That's got to be a boost. That's definitely got to help us out a bit in the sponsor confidence. However, after 4 straight failures, we got down to the low end of success. I think this is only, or of neutral. I think this is going to just kind of move us back towards the middle. And we have just a couple left. So without national championships, I think we're not going to do any better than neutral. And let's hope that we can get neutral. With some national championships, we could still find success, or better, potentially. That is going to do it for this episode, though. A little bit of a short one today. But a reminder to you, this is that last time that algorithm really matters on establishing the series. So if you didn't at the beginning, please take a moment, drop below, click that like button, and leave that comment. Let me know what you thought. Are we doing well with the objectives? Do you think we could do more than a top 10 with this team? Personally, I think we've done as good as we could, especially considering we sort of won this one today. At least we won the bunch sprint. That's big. In fact, it was a 1-2 in that regards. We just couldn't overtake those 8 riders in the break. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Appreciate you being here. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.